Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of my Tamiya Beetle build. Here we have the body all nice and primed up. However, before I start actually putting the color on it, I like to sand it down. In this case, I'm going to use a 1500 grit Tamiya sanding sponge. All I'm doing here is making sure that the primer is even and neat, and to make sure we don't have any imperfections when we actually put paint on. Now the goal here obviously is just to smooth everything out. You want to make sure you don't sand it down to the plastic again. If you do that, it is not the end of the world. All you have to do is simply reprime the kit again. Really not that big a deal, and it doesn't take all that long to take care of that. So if it does happen to you, don't be too concerned. For this vehicle, we're going to use Splash Paint's Ultraviolet Purple. What I do before I actually start painting, as always, is I blow it off with some of the compressed air from my compressor. And then again, start with the trickier spots, go ahead, get those painted up, and then move on to the rest. Just like with the primer, your goal here is to try to get a dry layer on, meaning that the paint is pretty much dry the second it touches the model. If it goes on a little wet, again, it's not the end of the world. Just turn your brush down a little bit and try to find that happy middle place.
So far away from home to worry about, but we will run this place straight to the ground. You twist your words into these lies. You never cared for me, only to see me scream. But the story never looked the same, and you're still just lost that I made it here some way. Tonight we get down, speakers underground. So far away from home to worry about, but we will run this place straight to the ground. One arm open, keep on hanging on. One arm open, keep on hanging on. One arm open, keep on hanging on.
Then after painting the body, we're going to move on to the rest of the body color components. Here we have the interior tub, or at least the back seat portion of it. Now, not all of this is going to get painted to the body color. I'm going to go back later and I'm going to paint some of it some different colors. Mainly, it's going to be semi-gloss black, and then I believe a sky gray for the rear cargo area. And here we have the front firewall and the dashboard.
Don't say another word. Just let the time fly by. Let tonight be you and I. We won't think of memories. So just close your eyes and think of you and I. Remember when we were kids, not a care in the world, playing tag along in the fields. Now we're older.
Here we have the interior tub. Now on this one, this is the only part that's going to be painted body color, like I said in the last video, so that's all I primed, and this is all I'm going to paint. Next up we have the turn signal lenses. Once again, I painted both of these, but I'm just going to show you guys one. Same thing with the door panel. Now again, I actually wound up painting this improperly. I had to remask it, repaint it. You'll be able to see that in some of the following videos. Here we have the hood getting painted.
Don't say another word. Don't say another word. Don't say another word.
And the trunk.
Time fly by and let tonight be you and I. We won't think of memories. So just close your eyes. Think of you and I.
When I'm painting body color on vehicles, I like to let everything dry for about 10 minutes. Fortunately, I had enough components to paint the body color that by the time I did the last one, it was about 15 minutes and I was able to get back and do my second coat on the body. I'm going to show you the second and third coats here at double speed. Again, they're exactly the same as the first, and didn't want to spend my whole video here having you guys watch me put body color on the car. I did of course put 3 coats on all of the body color components, but again, I'm just going to show you guys the body.
Fly away to outer space. Let's find a way to create. Let's find the time for me and you to see this through.
On these larger body panels, I like to go in the opposite direction on the second coat and then the opposite direction again in the third coat to try to avoid having some light lines in there.
And you, let's make this world that you and I built. Stick around, I don't care how many times it takes, just prove me wrong.
I'm not sure if I mentioned in the last video, but the paint stand I'm using is the Tamiya spray stand. I actually have a couple of them for when I used to build a couple kits at a time. It's an absolutely fantastic tool. For the clear, I used Splash 2K clear. I should note this is the older style, and they now have a 2K ultra clear, which I haven't used yet simply because I still have the remainder of my current set and a whole other set of their older clear, which I'm planning on using up before I buy any new stuff. So just like putting the color on, I start with the tougher areas first, the areas that are easy to forget, and then I get those done. I move on to the rest of the body. The goal here when you put on these coats is to try to put them on as light as possible to prevent any orange peel, which is exactly what it sounds like, a condition where the clear coat looks like an orange peel. If you turn your flow up a little bit, put on a little bit of a heavier coat if you're having issues, that'll typically take care of it. The first coat you don't have to worry about too much because the second and third coats will typically cover up any major orange peel you might have.
Let's build a rocket ship and fly far away from here. Let's look at stars as we pass and say we'll never look back. Oh my, how we shine like the brightest ones. Oh my, how we try to become someone. Oh my, how we shine like the brightest ones. Oh my, how we try to become someone. I built the rocket ship that took me straight to your heart.
And again, all the other body color components are going to get cleared as well. And again, if there's two of something, I'm only going to show you one. So that was the turn signal, and here's the hood.
Couldn't stop if I tried. Oh my, how we shine like the brightest ones. Oh my, how we try
Here's the trunk.
to become someone. Oh my, how we shine like the brightest one.
And here's the front firewall with the dashboard.
Oh my, how we try to become someone. I crash landed on the moon. I tried to see you soon. The ship took me too far away.
And here's the interior tub with the rear firewall.
Someday I'll try again.
And the rest of the interior tub. Now again, I like to let the body sit for about 15 minutes. Since I had all those other components to paint, it came out to about 15 minutes. So here's the second coat. Once again, I'm going to show this to you at double speed. It's exactly the same as the first, but I typically put the second and third coats on a little bit heavier.
hide you from pain. When will we meet again, you say, yeah.
Now, I typically like to give everything about 2 or 3 days to dry after doing the clear coat, and I noticed I had some dirt heads, as you can kind of see here. That simply means that a little piece of dust or dirt landed on the kit as the clear coat was dry. Since I work in the basement, there's really not much I can do to stop it, so I got to wet sand them out. So here I'm using some 4,000 grit wet dry sandpaper that I bought at my local auto store, and all you're going to do is get it wet and sand that down until it's gone. It's important to make sure you only sand to the sides. Do not sand in a circular motion, as it'll be really hard to get those buffed out when you're done. And again, all I'm going to do is keep doing this until that dirt head is no longer visible and the clear coat is completely smooth. Again, it's important to note that you don't sand so much that you sand through the clear coat, because that'll typically require you to strip the whole thing down and start over again. You might also notice that I've painted the interior of the vehicle in Tamiya's semi-gloss black. I typically just paint whatever color matches the interior when it comes to that. And again, I test fitted the body so I know exactly what areas will be visible once everything's put together.
So I'll try.
This is also useful when you got orange peel. As you can see, I got a little bit on these doors here, so I'm going to sand the whole thing down to get that orange peel out.
I'll die trying to explain. It's not where your head.
So this is what it looks like after the wet sanding is done. You can see all the scratches in there, and you can also kind of still see that dirt head on there. And that basically means I didn't do it enough. Now I sanded that down till it was gone. Again, I'm not going to show you because it's the same as what I did. Once you're done wet sanding, you want to go ahead and start buffing the vehicle out. I'm using the Splash Paints compounds here. You're going to start with the coarse compound. You're basically going to buff out the parts that you wet sanded. You could buff the whole vehicle, but I typically don't do the coarse. I save that for sometimes the fine and just sometimes the finished compound, depending on what I feel the vehicle needs. So all you're going to do is dip a microfiber in that compound, and you're going to buff it out in a circular motion, typically until the compound is mostly gone.
It may concern. I don't want to know. To who? It may concern. I don't want to know. To who?
And once you're done buffing it out, just find a clean part of the cloth and wipe off the leftover compound. You'll notice when it's done, the sand marks should be gone, but it's still going to look kind of dull. And that's why we need to go back and hit it with the fine compound and then the finished compound.
It may concern. I don't.
Worth noting, I did also address any issues on the other painted components, although on this one there really weren't a whole lot. Here we show me using the fine compound. I did speed this one up. It is the exact same process. I just didn't want to, again, have a 30-minute video of me buffing out a car body.
I'm just a boy who lives in the city.
And again, once you're done, you just wipe it off, and you can see that it's looking much better, but still not quite as shiny as we'd like, and that's what the finish compound is for. Finish compound, more or less the exact same thing, although I do finish it off a little bit differently. With this, I just buff it in, and then I typically let it dry to a haze before wiping it off. And again, with the finish compound, I will pretty much always do the entire vehicle. And after it dries for a few minutes, just go ahead, wipe it all off, and you should be pretty much done. Now, it's not quite to the level that I typically like it to be. I would typically spend a little bit more time doing this, but for the sake of getting these videos out to you on time, I kind of sped it up a little more than I would normally do. Again, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video and joining me. If you have any questions, anything else you'd like to talk about, please feel free to make a comment. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you again for joining me. We'll see you all next time.